Got it. Hey guys, thank you for coming back for another exciting episode of YOML. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. Today we are doing Reflection 255 in a brand new book. This book is called The Coaching Habit. Say less, ask more, and change the way you lead forever by Michael Bungay Stanier.
Yeah, I think
I'll
you're.
butcher his name.
Yeah, so actually, it's funny. I didn't put this in the description, but this book actually came to me because this leadership course that Salesforce put me through. You spend like an entire year doing this leadership course where you go through. You have like a little cohort of like 6 of us, I think, and we have this moderator that like each month we get together and we do all these different training modules and whatever, and then we get together and have a discussion around it. And the guy that leads it is actually from another company, and this is what Salesforce had hired them to do, is to run these like leadership development programs. So like anyway, this guy was a really cool guy, and I really liked him a lot. I felt like I had a lot in common with him, and a lot of the stuff that I cared about, like and the stuff that you and I care about, like he was very much in line with that. He recommended to me this book. He saw that I post a lot of stuff on LinkedIn and things like that because we became friends on LinkedIn. And he recommended to me, he was like, the best book that I've ever read was this book called The Coaching Habit. And I was like, I like this guy. So when I was getting back into a leadership role, which I'll explain in a second here, I thought, hey, this guy, I trust him. I like him. He's a good dude, similar mindset. And I thought, hey, let's give this book a try and see how it goes, right? So that's how I found this book. The reflection title on this one is Learning is a Leading Indicator of What Matters in Your Life. The funny thing is about this whole entire year of magical learning journey, as I got further and further into this whole entire thing, and as you and I, we're on 255 now, right? You start to see, as I look back, I started to see patterns in my own reading and things that I've been learning and what I've been caring about. This whole journey, when it started, this is basically a log of like 3 years of my life of everything that I was consuming and reading and what lessons that I have learned, right? I mean, this is literally a log of everything that I was reading and learning over the course of like a 3-year period of my life. When this whole journey started, before Amelia was born, got to make sure that that caveat is in there. It started in January of 2020, when I committed myself just personally from a personal growth goal to wanting to read 12 books in a year. So I just was like, hey, I'm going to read 12 books this year, once a month. That was my plan. The first month was that Hope is Not a Strategy. That was January. Second month was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the third month was The Compound Effect. That was when Amelia was born, right? So as you notice, the first kind of 3 books were a little bit more business-related books, right? Very much so. I went to the people, my boss's boss recommended me the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He was like, it's my favorite book. My boss recommended at that time, Hope It's Not a Strategy. So that was why I started with that book. And Darren Hardy, obviously, is the guy that I have been watching his little morning mentor sessions for years before that time. And I was like, well, if I'm gonna pick a book, I mean, he talks about the compound effect all the time, might as well check it out, right? So you can see where my learning was coming from, because it was what I cared about in my life at that point in time. I cared about my job. I cared about the business that I was trying to build on the side. That's what I cared about, like, sales, things like that, right? And immediately you'll see as you start to look back on this journey, you'll see first, as soon as Amelia was born and after she passed away, everything changed, right? Like almost every book that I read during those first 4, 5, 6 months after Amelia passed away, I was searching for answers about humanity. I was searching for answers about thinking and how our minds worked, humanity in general, and happiness overall, right? I was searching for answers, and then you start to see, as I kind of started to do, it got me curious again on that side of everything. Then, I had totally avoided all books about pain and suffering. Like I just didn't want to read it, didn't want to hear it, didn't want to feel, didn't want to do that. And there were the next kind of wave of this whole journey. You see books start to come in that are like option B's and Year of Magical Thinking, and books like When Breath Becomes Air, and books exploring pain and suffering, and books about like Your Body Keeps the Score, right? So I started to finally embrace the pain a little bit and understand like, hey, what is going on here, and not be as scared about it. And then from there, it catapulted me into a different spectrum. After I finally felt like I had my curiosity back and I had explored the pain a little bit more, my brain started coming back online again. And I started to get curious about projects that I care about and meaningful work and things like that. So I started to explore a lot more books around that, which led us to books about culture and the connected nature of the universe, and beavers and other life forms and fungi and all these other books about trees and whatever else, the stuff that I've been reading, right? And then finally, the next stage was more about like spirituality and philosophy and Buddhism and Stoicism and all these other things about like, how do other people apply a lot of these things to life, and you can kind of see all along like that, like what I was learning was always a leading indicator of really what mattered to me at that point in time in my life, right? And as I looked back on this journey, when I was reading this particular book, this the reason why I'm bringing all this up is because The Coaching Habit is the first business book that I read the entire time since Amelia had passed away. Like, I had not read a single book that was business themed, that was about my job. The one key theme that was missing the entire time, never gave a shit about any book that was about my job. So talk about red flags, right? Of finding yourself in a cul-de-sac in the dip. I care about so many other things in this world. My job isn't even on the radar, right? I was like, holy shit, when I was wanting to leave and I was thinking about the dip. Talk about a leading indicator of what matters to your life. Like, that could matter literally less. I didn't give a shit about wanting to get better at that. I didn't give a shit about wanting to improve in my job. Like, yes, all these other books and things like that, and what I was learning, what you and I were applying to different experiments that we were doing, was actually making me better at my job. But needless to say, I wasn't actively actually trying to get better at my job. So I found it really funny that this was the first book that was the first business themed book, since Amelia had passed away. And the reason why was because I left my job. After I read The Dip, we just went through that one a couple of weeks ago. I quit my job and I went to go do what I was calling meaningful work, and what you and I were calling meaningful work, because this is a clubbing experiment basically that I took over, and I got back to doing what I like to do, which is leading, mentoring, being a maven,
Right.
exchanging information and teaching and coaching and learning at the same time, and trying to get better with other people and help them to find meaningful work and meaningful relationships and live a balanced existence. So like everything that you and I were doing, I was like, oh, good, I get to finally do this again. And I was like, how can I do that better? Oh, here you go. Here's The Coaching Habit. That's where you start to see the leading indicators of what really matters, right? Because my job mattered to me. It was something that I wanted to get better at and I wanted to improve in. So I actually use the framework of this coaching habit every week in my one-on-ones. I started off with 2 questions. One is a question that I do, which is, how's your balance? That sets the stage, honestly, for a lot of things, right? So they're like, balance is good. It's feeling good. I'm feeling energy. I'm feeling momentum. I'm feeling like I got everything under control right now. And I'm like, great, we don't need to talk about it anymore. Then the next question, if the answer to that is, I'm like a 3 right now. I hate my job. I feel like I'm getting sick all the time. Things are happening at home, or whatever that's distracting me, or whatever they want to take that direction into, right? Like that question is an automatic fork in the road, of like, okay, we're either going to focus on if things are going bad, like what's going bad, right? Or if it's going good, we're going to go, okay, great. Second question is the first question of the coaching habit, which is, what's on your mind? So like, for somebody with life that's going good, then it's like, what's on your mind? Then it's like, for me and you, could be anything. I mean, it could be, well, I was reading about beavers, and beavers are really interesting right now. Like, I'm thinking about like, beavering on purpose or whatever. It could be literally anything, but it's about getting better. I hate the word better. It's about building that neural pathway of the things that are top of mind for you. Like, what's top of mind? What's actually, you might feel good right now, but what's top of mind? Like, what are you thinking about? And then they have a framework of questions that follows all that if you need to go down that. But that's the one question I remember from this, and the one question that I always still use every single week with my team. I have a one-on-one, and I learned it from the coaching habit. And I obviously subsequently you'll start to see more business themed books that pop up, in my life. And as you see this journey progresses, as we get closer and closer to like 365. But yeah, this is a big change. And I think the lesson that I learned when I was writing about this that morning was, it's a leading indicator of what matters in your life. What you're reading is what matters to your life right now. Ironically, all the books that I'm reading now since the journey ended are all about, what do you think they're all about?
Like from when?
From when 365 ended. What do you think all the books are about that I've been exploring since then?
I would say after you've done your stuff, it's about how can I figure out how to transition.
About clubbing. Like, it's all about clubbing at this point
Right.
in time, because now my brain is freed up to YOML is not on my mind anymore. Getting through the marathon, finishing this with Amelia, for Amelia.
Trying to find ways to transition from wherever you are now into where you want to be inside company, as far as the next step, the evolution.
Yep. That's exactly what I've been reading. The first month since I finished everything that I'm reading is like, every time that something pops up into my mind about it, even books like Titan by Rockefeller, right? It's about John Rockefeller's life. I remember when I told you about the endowments and UIC and the medical stuff, every single thing that everything that in my head keeps picking out little nuggets from these books is about what we're trying to do in Clubany, right? It doesn't matter what I'm reading, like everything that I keep, the paradigm that I'm viewing through everything, that I'm trying to find, little nuggets, go, oh, that's interesting. What if I did that with this, Like today, the reason why I was saying this book that I think you might be interested in is this book, Why I Hate the Ivy League. Well, what was really interesting today was when I was finishing up this book, he had this one section of it. They was talking about elections, basically, and like how elections work and how they don't work, and how fucked we are, where we can be persuaded by somebody that can be just absolutely terrible at the job. While these really, really qualified candidates can be left to the wayside just because they don't have whatever natural appeal, that they can win the connectors, the influencers, the people that like have that natural charisma that you just gravitate toward, even though maybe the substance behind them is total garbage. The theory that they brought up in this whole thing is, and you'll have to read it yourself, but this girl brought up this little girl that they was talking about high school elections, and they were trying to figure out how can we make elections better to get that bias out of eliminating all these really quality candidates that we never get to see that could do a way better job. And this girl had this great hybrid approach idea, because he talked a lot about lotteries, literally just pure lotteries, where they were like, hey, you're all the kids in the school, you get a lottery and you have to go be in the student body government, right? And it actually turned out to be incredibly successful when they would do that, right? So think about like our US government or something like that. If they just, lottery picked you, like almost like a jury duty, like, oh shit, you got to go be the president of the country for the next 4 years. And you're like,
I mean, from an individual perspective, like, fuck, I don't want to be president, right?
I want to be a state representative or congressman. Like, I mean, that sounds brutal, right? But like,
you want me to read what kind of bill is this? I don't even know the name of the bill. Nonetheless, read what's in it.
But if you think about it, that system probably would be more effective, just from a random sampling of our country that gets just randomly selected and thrown into a lottery.
I think it has its perks, but it violates the core values of what company stands for.
So this girl, he's going through the positives and negatives of both of these systems, and he's going through a bunch of different examples. And this girl, this little high school student, says, well, what if we did like this hybrid idea where everybody that wanted to be in that role, then they get vetted by, like if you narrowed it down to the list of 20 Democratic candidates or something like that, you know what I mean? Like when they do primaries, and then you did a lottery on top of that, right? Because then it would be like everybody that's in there, technically everybody would be probably okay with them being in that role. And then if we're just going to randomly poll, hey, maybe Jeb Bush, with the 2016 election, when they had like 20 candidates, we're all like, oh, okay, we agree. We let them in the field. Like, we agree that this person should be in the field. And then it's just like a random drawing of like, hey, Jeb, you're president, and Carly Fiorina, you're vice president or something like that. And we'd all be like, okay, we'll see what happens. Like, I'd be totally cool with that, like, versus, us trying to pick that one person that then it comes down to a popularity contest, right? I thought it was anyway, I'm giving all this as an example.
I think there's pros and cons to each methodology. It's just because the methodology we use today has been used for so many years that people find ways to exploit it. The hybrid approach is new. They haven't figured out other, flaws where to exploit, but eventually it's going to come down to the same thing. Is how can somebody with a certain agenda can say, well, what if I don't let them in? So you can really pick someone, or basically, all the people I want in there, anyone you pick, it's going to be a loser for you. So, I mean, to me, yes and no, but at the same time, it's hard to say because people are very unpredictable at times, and sometimes we are very good at exploiting flaws in animals, societies, whatever. We are very good at doing that. We have that ability to escalate to the extreme in situations. So I think beginning is good. That's why I say the Constitution is written in a way that allows you to do some of these things, and it was a really, really good document, but it has to be changed because people start to exploit the rules of the law, right. Yeah. Whether or not, let's say, freedom of speech, unless you're this or unless you're that or whatever, right? So it's not really totality freedom of speech, right?
No.
Right, because you say, well, if you say this, you still be responsible for certain things, and if you say that, it could be held against you in court of law. So in essence, yes, you can have freedom of speech, but there are caveats to it. You can have freedom of religion, right? You can practice whatever you want, but you can't do it in the middle of the market, stuff like that. So there's caveat, and people are going to say, well, the idea that you set out, I'm going to find ways to exploit whatever it is, and I'm going to find these exceptions and bring it up and say, hey, this is the precedent, or this is something that has been done. So you basically turn the design upside down, right? It meant to be something beneficial for the citizen. Now it becomes something that handcuffs them into dictatorship just because you can do that. And people make a career out of doing that, which is trying to figure out how to exploit things. And this is what you call lobbyists.
Right. Right. No, I thought it would be an interesting application for our Clubney entrance process because, like, who the fuck are we? We don't know who's gonna take to this and really want to do this or not. But we can definitely say we can qualify people through like the quest, and say like, okay, great. I don't know who gets a scholarship, but we know that you're ready to do this. We only have a couple $1 million available, and we have 100 applicants. How do we decide who's the right person to give it to? Do a lottery of people that are qualified candidates. The group is vetted or something like that. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm not so on the lottery thing. I really have to think about it. I just don't understand why the lottery would be beneficial. Just shaking things up doesn't mean it's a right fit. Like if you say, hey, I mean, the thing is, it could be say it's a close enough fit, but it's not the right fit. For me, it's like it's not alignment for me. It's like I told you about the machine slot where you put in a quarter versus a dime or a nickel, right? It still fits, but it's not the right fit.
Okay, so do this. Read this book. And then get your thoughts together, and then by the time we can talk about it, obviously, and we can debate the merits of it, pro or con. But the point of what I'm getting at of all this is that's how my brain is thinking right now. Is I'm reading a book about why he hates the Ivy League, and I'm seeing, oh, okay, how would we apply this to Clubney? Or I'm seeing how would we use an endowment? Because basically Princeton never has to like do anything for the rest of their life again because they make $2 billion a year with their endowment alone, just by capital gains, and then they don't have to pay capital gains on it, and then they can give that money out to go give more scholarships to people to continue to further the Princeton mission, right? So we need an endowment, and we need, to be able to get that point in time to be able to give out the scholarships and then make it self-sufficient. Anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole of things that my brain's been thinking about, but like this is what I'm exploring, and this is what like I'm writing about, and this is what my brain feels freed again to go think about Clubney and explore Clubney world, right? And that was the point of this reflection, is like learning is a leading indicator of what really matters in your life right now. That's what really matters to me right now, is like how can we figure out how to take this idea and the experiments we've already done, because we've done a lot, and all the conversations we've had, and really make this fucking thing happen, right? Like I'm ready to get at it now at this point in time, and that's what I'm reading about, and that's what I'm writing about, that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, so I do like the reflection. I just have one caveat to put in. To me, it's exploratory learning, not just learning, because you keep mentioning this many times. If you're free to learn what you want to learn, that is what matters. It's a leading indicator of what matters in your life. But sometimes you are forced to learn certain things, whether or not, like, let's say, hey,
calculus, physics.
You have to learn because society tells you to learn, your parents tells you to learn, your boss tells you to learn, or you learn because you need to get out of this sinkhole. You know what I mean? So that's not really. Sometimes it doesn't matter to you, because you say, hey, I don't know why, but I have to figure out how to put together a party because I somehow got voluntold to host a party, for example. You may not like it, but because you don't want to disappoint the people, and so you learning, but you're not really. It doesn't matter to you. Say, hey, I hate doing this. I hate becoming the president of this club or whatever. I just want to be this. You know me, right? I'm on the extremity in terms of solitude. I like 80% solitude and 20% interactions. I don't like 50-50, right? I'm not. If I have to do like in a day, I can probably tolerate one meeting for 30 minutes. One meeting.
That is not true.
No.
We talk for an hour every night. Like it's if you're eating cake, or if you can only do 30 minutes of frog eating, is what you're saying.
I can do 30 minutes of frog eating, but I can eat cake all day long.
Exactly.
But that's what I'm saying, is when you have to learn something, there is a certain tendency to explore. If you're free, then it's going to allow your brains to kind of latch onto things that is following your elephant. Your elephant saying, hey, I like this path, right? So you let the elephant lead you. And so the things that you learn in your spare time, in your free time, this is the keyword, free. You're free to choose, right? To me, that is the real indicator of what matters in life. And the thing is, I may even interchange the word. The learning that you enjoy would be the leading indicator of what matters in your life. But the thing is, if you are really exploring learning, you will enjoy it, because you want to know, okay? Because right now you got my brain curious about why does Malcolm Gladwell hates Ivy League? Because I want to learn that, right? I'm curious, because no one told me I have to do, right? because I want to know, because somebody put a question in my head. Now I want to learn that, right? And
Right.
that exploratory, I can't even say that.
Exploratory.
Exploratory learning is always going to satisfy the curious mind. And so when
Yeah.
you do that, you always enjoy. That's why I'm saying, hey, as long as you do exploratory learning, that is what dictates the things that can be going to matter in your life. That means that you are gravitating towards that kind of a discovery. You want to discover, okay, what is this answer to this question of why people hate Ivy League or whatever.
Yeah, go ahead.
And so I think we will want to put the caveat in there. So not just because somebody say, hey, you know, because a lot of time, like when I was growing up, my mom kept telling me like, hey, you should read books, right? And so, but I don't like to read books. I mean, that's not learning for me. But like I say, I can sit there for hours and I still won't get anything, and I wouldn't have absorbed any. I'll basically forget it the next day. And
Right.
so to me, that's a caveat: is you have to either figure out things you enjoy learning, or you exploratory learning, meaning like let your elephant lead you toward the next topic of things you want to find out about or discover about.
Exactly. That was when Your Magical Learning was at its best for me. Like, I mean, I
Mhm.
always loved every minute of it, but toward the end of it, I wasn't free. The reason why I pulled up the blog is I'm going to show you. This book was about a father and a daughter finishing a marathon together. I was searching for a book to finish out Your Magical Learning. This book was a Bill Bryson book where I was searching for a book to finish out this journey with, and I was like, oh, well, of course, gotta go with my good old favorite Bill Bryson, right? This book that I was doing this with, I literally was like, I don't know what to read right now. So I found this and I was like, maybe this will be interesting, you know. And I actually did. This was probably one of the more personal exploratory ones that I wanted to, that Amelia and I guess, you know, wanted to go do. But this one right here was Ozan Varol, who did Think Like a Rocket Scientist. This was his second book that I was like, well, I owe it to him to finish up, you know, his, and I enjoyed it, but like I owe it to him to finish this, right? You know, as a part of this journey. I could go on and on and on. Finishing up the Inserto. This was a book that my wife wanted to read. This one was finishing up a book that I hated that I committed to with another friend of mine that had recommended a couple other books. I started it and I didn't finish it, and it sat there for almost a year and a half unfinished, about halfway through. And I was like, just, you know, we don't quit on things that you love, and I love this journey, and I was like, I'm going to do it, right? The last book that I read just for total fun was probably Reign of Mammals. You know, I guess you could probably put Blink in there. But anyway, my point is, the past 2 months of my life, I have not been free to just explore. I was finishing up.
You constraining yourself.
Right. I was looking for things to finish this journey with, right? You know, and that was the leading indicator of like, I have to finish YOML strong. You know, like we have to get across this finish line. What makes sense to finish this journey? That was what I was looking for in every book that I was looking to read, right? And it was really just running at that point in time, right? I was like, I just got to break through the finish line, you know. And then like the day that I finished, like the first book that I read was went back to the Black Swan, right? And then I went to a book that I had saved for a long time, and then and now I'm going back. Now I'm doing things that I just want to do for fun again, you know, where it's like, oh my god, like, oh,
I mean, to see what we say before.
Right now.
Yeah, you say you gotta let the elephant be the elephant.
Right.
You're the rider. You can say, I gotta finish strong. Gotta finish strong. Come on, elephant, finish strong.
Exactly right.
Like, step back and let the elephant do his thing.
You're exactly right.
The point is, even if you purposely set this up so you end strong, who knows? Who give a shit?
No one does, but I did. No, like this is so wild.
The elephant is saying, you know, shut up.
Hey man, he's like, free yourself. Go ahead, have fun, enjoy. Go read the books you want to read.
I mean, you see the immediate shift in momentum.
Yes.
The moment you finish 365, because after 365, you're like this joyous person because you say like, oh, okay, I can do whatever I want now, right? I'm free, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a spring. You just bounce out of it. It's like 366. Okay, I like 366. The 360, 365 is like, I gotta finish this. It's like, come on. I mean, this is like eating the frog. I mean, it
wasn't eating the frog because it was very meaningful, like what I was doing for me. So it wasn't eating the frog, but it wasn't like pure enjoyment of learning for exploratory learning.
But I think, but not as the elephant. Because it has to be both, right? The elephant and the rider has to enjoy the journey.
Yeah, no, I was shoving my elephant up a hill.
Yeah, sure. You are trying to push the elephant in a direction that he may not want to go. So I think that's why you feel a little bit of a resistance?
To be fair, like I didn't love In a Sunburned Country. It was good. I enjoyed it. It's a Bill Bryson book. I enjoyed it. It was okay. This book did get me a little bit just because it was just so perfect. Like, Awaken Your Genius. I told you about this book. When I was reading it, I was like, I feel like this guy, give me the hoodwink, because for the past 3 years, I've been on his email subscriber list where he's been writing this book, and he just basically send out every week when he would send out his little ideas for the week. These were his ideas, and that's what the book is. I'm like, man, I've already heard all these stories because you read them. You were just writing your book and giving us little excerpts of it. I wish you just would have told us that was the case, because why would I ever buy your book at that point in time? Like, I already heard of this I've already read your book. I thought it was going to be something totally different. But anyway, you're spot on. I haven't felt this excited about any research probably since I started my new job, where I was just searching for ideas of how we could even take this thing like the Quest and other things to the next level. I probably haven't been this excited about just pure exploratory learning for quite a while. And immediately, it's funny because as soon as this journey ended, my brain went straight back to clubbing. It was like, okay, I can finally get this off of my plate to go think about the thing that I really want to think about with Amelia.
Right. I think that's the key, is to let your elephant do most of the work, because the elephant is the hero in the life story. And so if you keep forcing the elephant to do certain things, whether somebody's forcing you or you forcing yourself, why do you limit yourself to one reflection? I asked you this
Good
question
point.
before, all right? Why do you do it? Right? And then why do you have to finish strong? Right?
I don't know. I don't know.
Who told you you have to?
I told myself.
I don't expect you to, and why should you expect it yourself? And that's the thing, is you have to say, well, whatever traditions and whatever societal norms dictates, ask yourself, is that make sense for me? Right? Because at the end of the day, right, your life can only be enjoyed by you. It cannot be enjoyed by anyone. And your life is painful and can only be felt by you. It cannot be felt by anyone. Because no one can take somebody's pain in his or her place. So at the end of the day, right, if you are sick, right, if your body is not healthy, then you're going to be miserable. And so if you put your body to torture, you put your brain through torture, you will have these results. Certain things do not make you stronger if it doesn't kill you. It makes you weaker. Most things make you weaker, not stronger. It's only a few things, which is the anti-fragile properties of the object itself, right?
Right.
I mean, that's the thing, is only something does that. Like when you cut a hydra's head, right? It goes into two. Same thing with like herbs, right? When you trim some herb, you cut the stalk, two stalk come out. You cut that stalk, two stalk come out. That is anti-fragile, but only very few has the anti-fragile properties. So you have to go back and look at the life and the genes, what you long for. There's certain thing that who you are makes you yearn for certain thing. We talk about Sherman. They yearn to be outside, to gallop in the field, to be out there, to be in the elements, not to be sheltered from the rain, sheltered from the sun, sheltered from the mud, sheltered from the hard work of using energy to go uphill and downhill and carry stuff. I mean, to these animals, if you don't let them exert energy against itself, it deteriorates. It goes away. Just like I told you, if you have a perfect pair of legs, would you sit in a wheelchair 80% of the time? Because it's a better way to travel.
We sit at an office desk.
We sit at an office desk. I mean, we see what happened to us. We become chronically obese, diabetes, high blood pressure, you name it, right? That's what I'm saying, is when you have a certain gene, you need to express it. If you don't express it, it's constraining that expression, and that is the hardest thing ever. To me, let your elephant do exploratory learning. That is the real indicator, leading indicator of what matters to you in life. And what matters to you is what you remember. And what you remember is life fulfillment. If you don't remember, that means it wasn't important.
Agreed. You need to go spend the next every day of your life. You need to go learn about Salesforce products and become an admin for Salesforce. That's torture. I could give two shits about anything that's going on in that world. I don't sell it anymore.
Even giving?
Can't even give two shits. Like, I mean, it would probably be torture to me if you said, hey, instead of reading Malcolm Gladwell, books and exploring other things, I need you to spend that hour you spend a day of self-exploratory learning, of doing this dedicated learning for your craft. I'm gonna go, I don't give a fuck about my craft. Like I do what I do because
It's only exploratory learning that creates this enjoyment, because it doesn't matter what you want to do. Let's say
right.
I want to know the answer to the question why some people hate Ivy Leagues. That's because I
I want to know.
initiated the question, and that
Right.
question say, well, it's interesting. I'm curious. But there's certain things that I don't know about and I can learn about it, but it doesn't feel like, I enjoy it. Let's say, hey, how will people create this political? I don't give a fuck about it. I can learn about it, but
Right.
I can't even give two shits about how to form this political constructs of societies. I don't care. Like I say, I'm a maven in this corner. I'm not this
Right.
connected. I don't really care about the society in general, right?
That's the point of a maven, though, right? Is they have their domain they are obsessed with, that they want to learn incessantly about, but also at the same time share, because that helps them to get better and grow and learn in whatever they care about, right? Like that's why people become experts in travel, or whatever. I have one of my best friends is I told you about his little travel I did. He goes through painstakingly amounts of time before every trip that
But
him and
it's
his
not
wife take.
painstakingly for him. I spend fucking 16 hours a day on the computer for the past 25 years. So
Wow.
what who?
I didn't even want to hear that. Honestly, that made me like, sad. Like not me, sad in my own head of like going, oh
But
my God.
and I don't feel like it's painstaking for me. It's painstaking for you to even do it for like 1/10 of what I do. It's like I do 16
Yes.
hours. You do for like a couple hours a day every day. It's like no, I do it on the weekend too. I sit there like from morning to night.
How many hours I've logged on a tennis court or a pickleball court? Last night I played 3 hours of pickleball, and I wasn't even remotely tired. I played on Saturday. I played pickleball in the morning, and I played pickleball in the afternoon with one of my best friends who was in town. Not even blinking an eye, and that's still while doing
The
life duties.
exploratory learning is addictive.
Right.
If it's addictive to you, you are on the right path. If you are
Exactly.
forced to learn something you don't want to learn,
Don't
it
learn
doesn't matter what it is. I mean, let's say you want to learn how to do crochet. Only if
if I
you
want to.
had some kind of question that strike the curiosity.
Right.
I mean, I can't even do it if you say, "Well, I challenge you to take up crochet today and learn about it." It doesn't work for me. It doesn't strike. I mean, even though yes, this thing is somebody asked me to learn it, it doesn't it doesn't feel like I will enjoy it. I won't enjoy it. As a matter of fact, I know I won't enjoy it, right? Because unless there is something that spark and trigger the curiosity of exploration, and then I'll be addicted to how the fuck do you do this like this matrix of yarn in and out and weave it together,
Right.
right? Only then, so that's what you need. Just allow your elephant to
Right.
attach its brain to some topic, and then let it go, let it naturally progress, and you become addicted to it. Like whatever the thing is, like when we're talking about like the slicing pie, for example, right? When the idea comes to us in the book, then we say, well, I can do this, I can do that. Even when we read about platform revolution, I mean,
Right.
our
Yeah.
brains are continuous, and you
Right.
enjoy those moments
Oh
because
yeah, that's what we do this for. It's a little piece of the Triforce where you're like, I got it, I get it. I read this other book maybe 2 weeks ago. It was called In Praise of Slowness. Talk about a book about don't run for trains. Like you would love this book. It was basically a book about not running for trains, right? And going slow in the world.
because everything it has pros and cons. So sometimes you say everything's fast, it's not good. It's just like, hey, you raise a chicken in 3 days. Well, it's not a good chicken.
Oh
It's
man,
a
yeah,
slow growth of a chicken. Yeah, I want that natural chicken. So you think about it. Everything has its pros and cons. Something
exactly.
you want fast, something you want slow. So like you can't not have everything. Nothing is universal.
Well,
It's
so what this
always
book
perspective based.
agreed, and what this book made me think about was A, you and not running for trains, and then B, I was like, you know what? You remember when we talked about having a siesta and building that into the clubany, ecosystem of things that we were going to make part of our culture because like, balance and yada, 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 all that other stuff. Well, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm doing this next month. My monthly challenge is going to be, I'm going to build in an hour siesta in the middle of my day. I don't give a shit what's going on. I'm going to pick a time from like 2 to 3 every day where I'm just going to block off my calendar. I'm going to either just sit down and, stare at the wall or take a nap. I'm just gonna stop. I'm just gonna disconnect from everything in the middle of the day, and That's it. I'm taking a siesta. That's my monthly challenge next month is taking a siesta. But to your point, it's like my brain sees these things and learns these things and explores these things and then wants to go apply these things because my elephant just wants to. Like it's fun, like, you know, and it's a part of the process, you know, and it's the fun part of the process. Like I think back to like calculus in college, or like, oh my God, management 200. It was an accounting class. It was the beginning business accounting class, and it was one of the biggest weed out courses in all of colleges.
Physics 101.
No, well, that could be for sure. At Purdue, Chem 101 is like the fucking weed out for all engineering majors, but for business majors, it's this management 200 class. I fucking hate math. I hate fucking accounting. I hate numbers. Like that class was pure fucking torture to me. I mean, it made me want to cheat. Like it made me want to just go, just somebody, like one of my fraternity brothers or something, just sit next to me. I'll just copy, you know, your answers on every test. Like if you like to do this stuff, I just have to get through this apparently, you know, to be able to continue on with my degree, you know, and I'm like, why? Why the fuck, if I don't want to learn about accounting stuff and I don't have any desire to ever want to be an accountant, like why do we force people to learn shit like this? Like college would be so much more fun if you could just, you know, design your own journey out of it and be like, oh, I want to learn art appreciation, or I want to take, you know, I want to take accounting, you know, like, I mean, because I like accounting.
I like physics. I like calculus. I like chem. I hate
art appreciation.
I mean, every time I go to class, I like fall asleep. I can't keep my I can't keep myself awake. I'm like completely wide open in chem and physics and calculus. Like shit. And like I said, in physics, when I first came to physics, there's no sheets, right? And then next day there's sheets, and then next day there's empty sheets. And in the week is like there's probably like 1/4 left.
That's hilarious.
So I skipped Chem 101. I go to Chem 200 because I skipped out. And so in the beginning, it was like a lot of people, like the whole department, right? And so I think it's Chem 101. I didn't take it because I exempted out. But
nice.
Chem 101 was the same because there's a lot of people that comes to it, and then certainly it's, I mean, I went to physics, so physics and chem are almost exactly the same way. They come out, and I think they, like the school, the university, they do it on purpose. They will pack everybody in the same room because they know that they're not going to stay. And so the first day, when you see people sitting on the steps, you know, and then people standing in the back. And then the next day, there's empty seats, right? And then next day, there's even more and more. And then certainly there's like, by the time, like, does Purdue have this thing called Q drop, where you have like maybe 6 weeks into the semester, you can drop any classes without having any kind of penalty. So Texas A&M has the option where within the first 6 weeks, you can drop any classes and pick up another class, right?
Interesting.
And so there is a period of grace that you can drop. And so by that date, that 6 weeks in, they're probably like less than 10% in the chem and in the physics. And I'm talking about
I believe it, yeah.
So in my chem, because I skipped chem 101, I go to chem 200 with the sophomores. And what happened is, for that, like they start out with like 40, right? Chem 101 is like 200. Chem 200 is like 40. By the time that Q drop grace period ended, you're talking about there's like 12 people.
Right. I believe it. I mean, I believe it, man. These like, but to your point, the people that, like, I would rather just stick with it and like go, hey, True, give me all the answers because you like this, and I'll give you all the answers to the
I hated history. I hated art appreciation.
I love history. Like these are like history classes and geography and art appreciation for me, and wine appreciation, and you know, fucking case studies and business.
So go back to what we were saying is let the elephant be the elephant, right? Because everybody has their own elephant, and that is because like I enjoy the things I hate, and you enjoy the thing I hate, and so you can't really say, hey, you know, we should all be kind of like equal.
Here's your curriculum, you know. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I hate stat. Oh my God, stat. So the way that Purdue's business school works is your first 2 years, everybody has to take the same classes. So you have a predefined, like you have to take these like 10 courses or something like that over your first 2 years, and you have to get a minimum of, I think, of like a 3.15 GPA in those 10 core classes, which is only like a handful, maybe like 2 or classes. You get a few electives you can take or something along those lines. But you have to get a minimum of 3.15 to be admitted into, and in those 10, on average, on those 10 courses, to be admitted into what they call the upper division classes, where you actually get admitted into the business school. So technically you start off in the business school as a freshman, but you're not actually in the business school. Like, you don't get admitted into
You have to take the weed out class.
Right. So you have to take these weed out classes.
They have this thing they call cowboy chemistry, meaning like the chemistry. Right? It's like, oh, this is a beaker.
Right.
This is a pipette, right? It's like,
Right.
that's nothing to do with chemistry. And even
Right.
then, that's a weed out class for this banner major, like business management. And so there are like science major where they have to take real Chem 101. Even those are kind of separate in a way. There are like calculus for engineering majors and a calculus for
the general,
the business of arts, right?
The Gen Pop, yeah.
Gen Pop. And these things are so funny just because you don't even learn these things in high school because it's not really teaching you any of the core fundamental of that course. It's just telling you, like computer 101, right? CPU, what does CPU stand for, right? Exactly. They're talking about like peripheral, talking about these things. These are basic computer. Right. Like it's not.
It's like going to a tennis course and they're like, this is a racket, this is a ball, these are the lines, this is the court, this is how it's played. You can hit a forehand, you can hit a backhand.
It is so fucking easy, but the understanding is that these people who took it, even though it's easy, they fucking hate it. Therefore, they won't learn it. That's why they fail the class.
Oh, I don't remember a single thing from Management 200, 201, or any of my stat that I had to take 3 fucking stat classes. Like, and it was like really hard, like stat classes that were like really, really, really hard. For what? Like, I don't, like, I'm not a statistician, never gonna be a statistician. I'm not a business analytics, major or something like that. Like, what the fuck do I need to be doing probability statistics for, of like regression to the mean analysis and shit like that?
Formula you need is a compound interest formula, and we have calculators for that.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, why do I need to take any of this shit? Like, but to get to my major, my actual concentration in business school is international business and economics. That stuff I loved, like, and I actually loved when I got to go take those courses, of studying case studies about Southwest Airlines and why they were good or why they were bad and how the market played and how all this, like, that stuff gets my brain going, and I was like, oh my God, like, I get A's in these classes all day long. The other ones, I am like strapped to the side of my, if I was on a roller coaster, I'm like holding on for dear life going, oh my God, please get a C, please get a C, please get a C, please get a C. Like, I mean, I'm like studying my ass off to get a fucking C plus. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't right.
I've taken Asian history. I've skipped probably like 75% of the class, right?
Because you already knew it, or because you didn't like it?
I didn't like it. That was the worst experience I ever remember in college.
Asian history.
I didn't even participate in it, and this is the worst memory. Funny. Okay, I figured that, hey, I'm Asian. Maybe Asian history would, appeal to me. It didn't. Right. I mean, I'm talking about like so little effort, but yet so much significant influence and impact on you as a person. I remember this dreading feeling of, fuck, I gotta go there. And I don't remember.
That's how I felt for anything.
It's like as if I'm in this haze of a nightmare. I don't even remember. I'm like you feel very hazy. No, I don't remember exactly what. It's like I can say where I may have made all this up in my head because I don't remember any single detail of any vividness to it.
I mean, I know exactly what you're saying because every single one of my business stat classes or accounting classes or financial accounting or business accounting or probability stats classes, I don't remember. Every day that I went to that class, I literally would zone out going, I have no idea what you are talking about, and I don't fucking care. But then I had to go study for a test. And then I was like, like it was just...
It's the worst subject to prepare for because you have no idea what you're doing.
Torture.
You're interested in
torture. Like, I mean, God. All right. Well, anyway, we're out of time overall. But fun conversation as always. The question we can leave with everybody is, is the knowledge you are consuming each day contributing toward your purpose or sending you in the wrong direction? If it is, if you're not doing it because you want to do it, then stop doing it. Like, just stop. Like, I mean, it's not, stop torturing yourself about
exactly. Don't torture yourself. But that's what I'm saying is that why are you constraining yourself for no reason? I mean, it's enough that people trying to force these rules onto you. You also implement your own rules to constrain your own yourself, your elephant.
Right.
And to me, you say, well, who put a gun to your head and asked you to do that?
No one. Like, you did. Like, your rider did to your elephant. Your rider's like holding your elephant hostage, and the elephant's getting pissed, and they're like, slowly building up, and all of a sudden, then you have a panic attack, and you break down, and
and then the elephant start revolt against you.
All right. So we'll leave it at that for the night. And thanks for joining. We'll see you all tomorrow night.
Sounds good.